The affair within a distance, just as ice cream melts gradually, so too may a relationship. My spouse admitted to me last summer that she had an affair. Naturally, I was offended, but I chose to accept reality until I learned that they had become Facebook friends. She had been experiencing some challenges, and we had been having problems up to this time. In September, she moved out and acquired a place of her own. We have 3 kids together and have been dating for 17 years. She went back to seeing the man she'd told me about during the summer. Our kids were placed under my temporary guardianship, and she was allowed to visitation after school but not overnights. I tried to make amends in December, and she told me she was in love and pregnant with this OM. I had a vasectomy during our previous try, so I'm positive it's not mine. She may not have desired to become pregnant, in my opinion. We have had 2 sessions of counseling since she told me in January that she still loved me and wanted to have this resolved. In January, she was found guilty of a DUI as well. She hasn't spoken to the other man for a duration of 2 weeks, but I have no doubt that he wants to interact with this child. I adore my spouse and don't want a dysfunctional household for our children. How are we going to break the news to kids that their mother is having an affair? I'm thinking about this mostly for our kids. Will this child have his name if OM takes the courts into his hands? A child from this affair is sufficient, but the fact that this OM is involved worries me in the long run. Is our marriage irreparably broken, or should I try to save it? Comments: if my wife left me and got pregnant with OM's child, I don't think we could ever get back together. Let her live in the new life she built for herself. You have the children. That's my opinion. I understand that you don't want your kids to grow up in a dysfunctional household, but your family was not split up by you. This is the reason I believe you are your wife's backup plan, or that her regrets are not sincere. She wants to make amends with you now because 1. There is no child support, you have primary custody of the children, and 2. Her DUI isn't making her actual life very easy right now, and I have a feeling this OM really doesn't want to be burdened with a child. Why does she feel the need to make amends now that she is pregnant? Easy. She has a DUI on her license and is going to become a single mother. And as we speak, her OM is probably pulling away from her. Before you commit to AR with this woman, give it a lot of thought. I believe she's playing you, but you'll have to see for yourself. I wish you luck as you attempt to solve it. I offered my opinion based on its merits. If you are considering AR with this crazy woman, you really should get your brain checked out at SAP. It's ill. Everything about this is sick. Cut her loose quickly. You really don't want to stay in this marriage, I assure you. You'll never be content or lead a normal life again. Not you, but the other man should parent the child. Yes, so tell your children what? Yes, mommy got herself pregnant by sleeping with another man. This is your new sister in half. Once a cheater, always a liar, brother. You should never trust them again. Opus replies, I told her to go after seeing that they had become friends on Facebook, and I still love her. Although she has been living at home for the past few weeks, she still owns her place and is making an effort to make things work. We are back in counseling and attending church together. I only had one thing I wanted to get straight. When I discovered she had made a Facebook friend, I requested her to leave because I thought she was unstable at the time. She felt that I was using her children against her, and she was angry with me for removing her from her children. She could essentially monitor kids after school but not overnight since I was granted interim custody. She is becoming more and more obvious, and the kids will eventually find out unless we tell them it is our child. I have at least committed to trying to make this work for the time being, but I don't see how we are going to handle all of this. What choices do I have with OM to prevent him from coming? If my kids know their brother, how will they manage it? Sister's father is not the same. It lets a whole other can of worms get opened. With 10 years old, our eldest is 6. I had the D papers completed in December, following my pregnant discovery. I felt that at that time there was no turning back. Even now, I'm not sure that we aren't. It truly will depend on how she manages and how big of a hassle is. In any case, I do not want him in our lives. Despite the fact that he is my biological father, I believe that his involvement will destroy any reconciliation we have begun. How do I remove him from our lives? My goal is to provide my kids the best life possible, and I'm attempting to determine what that means for me personally. I had a difficult time separating from my ex 3 months later, but it took some time. But I've now come to terms with the fact that I can't reach her again and that raising another child will hurt. I do occasionally still think about her, but it's gradually decreasing. I've also been having fun in pubs and going there. Not going out on the town with the girls, just getting a beer and watching football. Please give me some time. I'm sure I can overcome this. Story 2. My spouse told me over the phone 2 weeks ago that although he loves me, he is not in love with me. He claimed to have lost his identity and to need some alone time. He had spent the previous 2 weeks in Ireland while on business. I trust him when he says there is no one else. He has been away from home a lot, and my mother had been here from Canada for a month. He travels for work. The few days I saw him following her departure, he was somewhat reclusive before departing for Ireland. What he stated in V upset stunned me to no end. He works for himself and has had a challenging year, but things have been getting better recently. He spends a lot of time under a lot of stress. He seems to be going through some sort of crisis. I've followed some book recommendations, grown more self-reliant, and maintained a schedule of friends and interests. I realized that because I had few friends and no confidence before, I was overly dependent on him. I am not phoning or mentioning anything about myself, I am simply messaging for necessary things. Has anyone reached 80? I've managed quite well, kept myself busy, and picked up both new and old pastimes and occupations. I ultimately overcame my reluctance to text him and beg him to come home, though, because I was longing to speak with him. He answered that he simply wants solitude. I am therefore done with loneliness and melancholy as well as with waiting, wishing, and hoping. Well, the latter two might resurface occasionally, but I've made the decision to go on and live my life. It goes without saying that I want my spouse back, but I cannot control him. Even though I still need to remind myself to act in my own best interests, I'm feeling more upbeat. The only way is up when it comes to eating, exercising, making new friends, and acting. I won't continue to live in uncertainty. I attended a personal development session this morning and had a terrific day. I was so afraid that I almost decided not to go because I thought no one would like me or that everyone else would be great and I would be the only one who made a mistake. I forced myself to leave, believing that fear is no longer a valid excuse for inaction. I have to quit overthinking and take action since I have been avoiding so much for so long. In any case, it was just fab, a very nice group, and I picked up some practical skills and methods that I can apply to help myself. I would wholeheartedly advise you to pursue NLP if you ever get the chance. If this is the improper place to put this, I apologize. All I wanted to do was share it. I'm waiting on a counseling appointment while taking antidepressants. For me, it hasn't been simple. I feel better the more I take care of myself. I've let H figure things out on his own and he hasn't made any attempts to make communication. He removed himself from Facebook a few months ago after growing tired of it. He withdrew his account rather than closed it. He mentioned that he could restore if he so desired, as I recall. In any case, he hasn't been on Facebook for months, but yesterday I discovered that it also said married next to his name on my profile. It had previously only said married. I apologize if this doesn't make any sense. In any case, he has returned to Facebook abruptly, but he hasn't been posting or leaving comments. I should admit that I've been hesitant to say hello on his page thus far. I have a feeling he's checking up on me on Facebook. Or maybe not. I'm not sure about it, though. My initial thought was excellent. He may be checking up on me because he is still sufficiently interested. My second thinking was that he wouldn't feel compelled to contact me if he finds out what I'm up to. My H has not returned from his work trip. 5 weeks have passed. He texts finances but won't talk to me. His sister, with whom he is in contact, believes he is experiencing a breakdown. For the previous few years, he had worked practically every day. Due to his self-employment, he is in financial hardship. In any case, I've held myself accountable for the lack of bonding we've experienced over the previous year. I suppose I've become LD, and I do experience extreme fatigue at night. I've reverted to blaming myself for everything since he left since I'm so eager to accept responsibility. I had to reconsider after reading anything on this site today. He is supportive of me and a wonderful listener, but he doesn't express his emotions much and acknowledges that his upbringing has hindered his ability to communicate about some topics. He says a few things, but he keeps a lot to himself. Even if he won't admit it to me, I can tell when he's upset or thinking about something. Like I've just realized that perhaps I'm not entirely to blame. I've been working on myself ever since he left. I return and observe. I'm making an effort to go out and socialize more. I depended too much on my age. I've thought a lot about my involvement in this. I do believe that I tend to focus on what I did incorrectly rather than the bigger picture. We've always loved each other, been close, and enjoyed ourselves together. 12 years of marriage. Incredibly nice and caring to one another, but the passion hasn't been as strong. I've subsequently seen a couple emails from him explaining what I believe went wrong, but he won't communicate to me. This email was a little beseeching. I realize I should quit doing it. Later, given a recent depression diagnosis, my doctor feels that I have been that way for some time, even prior to H abandoning me. Naturally, things have become much worse since then. I've been separating myself for some time. As the evidence, which included several forms I had filled, revealed that I was not doing well, I told the doctor that I was, in fact, fine and coping rather well. How crazy is that? I recently stopped using Facebook and deactivated it. I can no longer look at all those contented folks. I told my friends and relatives, and everyone said, "Oh, that's too bad, I'm sorry," except for one person. They haven't made any inquiries. And these same folks penning notes extolling the virtues of their union, adding holiday photos of them all looking gorgeous. It's just too much for me. In any case, nobody gives a damn. I might as well vanish from the face of the planet. The only people who call me are those who want money from me because I have unpaid bills. It's as if I'm at last experiencing my depression rather than bragging about how wonderful everything is. My heart abandoned me 6 weeks ago. It's been difficult for me, but I'm getting stronger and happy little by little. My personal development has been aided by this separation. I've made the decision to stop waiting for him to return and to start living my life right now. I'm over my loneliness and melancholy. Though emotions may fluctuate, I no longer wish to mope. I recently learned that my H, who moved out 7 weeks ago, is dating someone. I have no idea if they've had a paw, but I have a strong feeling that he has. He called an old buddy of his who was intoxicated and replied to the question of where he was. Flat. And he told him not to tell me, which is why he hasn't. As if he was worthy of defense. He's not aware that I know yet. I debated not telling him, but I'm not sure whether it would help. What should I do about this? Shall I give him a call? Shall I remain silent? Does this have any advantages? Though I've never been in this situation, it should be evident to me what I should do. H called. He's aware that I now know. Initial call after T months. He's been in a relationship. While in Ireland, I met her in a bar. He works for himself, not a company. He's going to have a terrible time. He is unsure about his desire to return. He claimed that his actions ended our marriage. He has been extremely stressed. I'm not endorsing or justifying his actions, but merely stating the information. During the past 6 months, our bonding life had virtually disappeared. He said he didn't know what he wanted to do when I inquired. He promised to do everything in his power to support me financially and that he will return to England for employment. I think I should at least have a proper conversation with him, even though this was probably incorrect. We haven't spoken for the past 2 months since he left. I desire his return. Although I am aware that he cheated on me, I would still forgive him if he was willing to make amends. He seemed to be very perplexed. He claimed to have been drinking heavily. When I asked him about this girl and inquired about his feelings, he replied that she seemed to be interested in me. I don't believe he is aware of his emotions. I'm in excruciating agony, devastated, furious, and annoyed. Before he went, he never spoke to me. He seemed withdrawn, so I asked him what was going on, and I could tell something was wrong. I never got the chance to discuss it or attempt to fix the issue. When he returns to England the following week, I have no idea if he will even visit me. I'm upset, sad, disappointed, and furious. I'm also happy that the truth is now known. The ignorance was destroying me. To make sure, he gave it a call. He feels deep regret. For work, he traveled to Ireland. He works for himself, and everything went wrong, costing him everything. His head has been buried in the sand. He has been consuming a lot of alcohol. They met in a bar. She drinks as well. In 1 week, he will return to England on business. He believes that his infidelity is the reason our marriage is over. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with him except in a very brief phone conversation. It's as though he can't accept it. He stated he wasn't sure when I asked if I would see him. My spouse came from a very dysfunctional home. The 2 children were left to raise themselves and steal food when they could because their mother was an alcoholic. He has never received counseling. He has struggled to communicate his emotions, and when I spoke with him, he was unable to even tell me how he felt about anything. He sounded like a different person. I want to visit him so we can discuss the situation even though I'm not sure what will happen. Alternatively, you may just work on something together and discuss when he's ready. I have made the decision to make amends and allow ourselves to heal. I'm already working on myself, and he needs to get into therapy. It seems like he can't face it. I want a reconciliation with him even though I am experiencing all the typical feelings. I still adore him. He can't look at me anymore. I've sent a few emails and SMS expressing my opinions. I am aware that he probably needs some time to decide what he wants. I'll now leave him alone and expect to hear from him shortly. I simply want to know when he will accept it and come see me, but I have no influence over that. I saw him on Facebook yesterday, although it's possible he was stalking people there. Today, he added his O as a friend and deleted his married status, replacing it with a relationship. Oh, and how sweet is it that her birthday coincides with his. After talking to my sister-in-law, who has always been my pillar of support, and acknowledging my anger, I went to his page and wished him luck in his relationship. I hope it fulfills all of your desires. Since it appears that you are unwilling to work on your marriage, I will stop harassing you and block you right away. I also instructed my sister-in-law to tell him that I'm happy and moving on rather than that I'm depressed or angry. I won't allow him to witness my distress. How foolish I am, oh my God. Because I believed he was experiencing an MLC breakdown, I've suppressed my rage and given him support for his pitiful ass. Oh, I'm done for now. Even if he's not, I'm going to keep my head held high. What an awful piece of garbage. He may have done it to wind me up and give me another kick to the stomach just for kicks, but I'm not sure why. I have no knowledge of her. I have no idea if she's married. Just saw her picture. Both of them are in Ireland. She drinks, and so does he. It had to be pure love if you met in a pub. I'm in the UK and have no kids. Years ago, we underwent infertility treatment. It was unsuccessful. He seems unfazed. Naturally, I was devastated. I have not a single money, thus I am unable to petition for divorce. Because he had terrible credit at the time, he accrued debt on my credit card and 2 loans that were all in my name. I state that I haven't had a job since 2015. I've been enrolled in college, but I had to leave this year because of financial difficulties. I poured my last $60 into the car for gas because I don't have any money. He was doing so well that we were able to rent a fancy house. I sent my H a little email last night, just 2 lines. I'll succeed with or without him, and I wish him luck in his new relationship. I felt like I had let go of a little of the grief along with him when I sent that. It feels different, like a fresh start, this morning. I've been pursuing, pleading, attempting to have a talk with him, messaging, phoning, and repairing him all this time. I'm totally over it. Everyone says to concentrate on yourself, but it's been hard. However, this morning, it feels effortless and right. For now, it's great to be able to get over it. Perhaps it's just the roller coaster. He's still communicating with his friends and family, who I would have believed would be able to direct him. He still cheats on me, and it greatly irritates me that he feels comfortable chatting with others, people I believe to be my allies. Am I erroneous here? I have to accept the fact that I am powerless to change it and go on to other things. His sister tells me that he is currently back in the UK, where he works. He does converse with her, but not often. Leo is no longer listed among his Facebook friends, she informed me. I blocked him a long time ago, but that doesn't really mean anything. It's not like he's returned and begged for forgiveness, I assume. He's probably also had an MLC. What then do you believe is happening? Any recommendations or guidance? Any ideas as to why he still keeps his distance from me? Additionally, he promised to assist me financially, but for a while, it wasn't consistent. He met her at a bar during his several months of unemployment and heavy drinking in Ireland. However, he is now texting me more frequently and says he hopes to start helping me pay off the bills he left me in January. Additionally, he told his sister that he doesn't think much of her and that he doesn't like several aspects of her personality. He refuses to talk, even though I really want to. He has stated that he is aware that we must speak eventually. He occasionally calls his sister and promises to visit during the holidays. He is quite close to his sister. Childhood dysfunction brought on by an alcoholic mother. Nor can he even be vulnerable with her. In any case, he promised to visit her, marking the first time he had seen his relatives in a long time. However, that hasn't occurred thus far. Little by little, my sister-in-law tells me what he says on the phone. All I want is for him to give me a call. I've stated that we can just hang around or go on a stroll with the dogs. My sister-in-law claims that he is filled with guilt. In addition to saying we need to chat soon and that H is most definitely not coming back, my H texted me about the rent. I was let down because I had been hoping he would return for a long time. I'm not sure if he is still the O or if he is just content to be single. I'm going to be too self-respecting to beg or bid. There are factors that have contributed to the outcome, therefore I was hoping for R after he emerged from the fog. Of course, the affair is entirely his fault. I guess it's time for me to give up hope. I was whining about my STBX, feeling depressed, etc. on this site the other day. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm feeling better and that I appreciate their support. I was afraid I was slipping into a deep depression. I'm playing the game for keeps right now. I'm over the X, feel free to give him to O. Like everyone else here, I deserve so much more. I'm prepared to transform my life into something amazing with my current ambitions. Just learned my H is not the only one who lives in Bristol. I mistook his L for being in Ireland. No, she's in Bristol with him. I am really heartbroken. It hurts as much as D-Day did. If she was still in Ireland, maybe he would emerge from his cloud, I was hoping. We are 4 months into it. I'm a moron. I offered to help him by selling some goods after he texted me saying he was broke. I'm leaving. To assist him save on rent, I even offered him the extra room in my house. I miss him so much, God. All I want is for him to return. Although I know it's terrible and you're all going to encourage me to move on from him, it's difficult. I am unable to suppress my feelings for him. 12 years of marriage later, we were incredibly affectionate, talkative, and close. And whoa, I lost both my spouse and my closest buddy. It is difficult for me to continue. Is anything really worth doing? Life seems to be ending to me. Is it unreasonable to anticipate that your friends will unfriend and unfollow your ex on Facebook? I was mistaken to believe it wasn't. All of his pals are still with him. Not a single consequence for him. I'm really mad at you. I had assumed that my so-called friends would defend me, but they don't seem to. Feel incredibly disappointed. Update. H hasn't seen me since and won't talk to me anymore. Communicates just through writing. Hope all is okay with me and the animals, he always says. 3 cats and 2 dogs. However, these appear to be merely words. I've been treated like Sean T, he says he understands. Still hurts, though. I had our first talk about my potential bankruptcy 3 days ago. In our real conversation, he remained reticent and closed off. Says he regrets and feels bad, and he's considering moving to California on a whim. Beginning on Tuesday, he will be meeting with a counselor. I believe sometimes I'm just wishing him well, distant. At other times, I find it hard to believe he did this. Yes, he was sad and carried a lot of baggage, but he still cheated on me by meeting her in a bar. I'm extremely close to his sister, but she thinks he's a complete piece of junk and doesn't even think he's happy with his O. Must have gone crazy for a year at my H's business. For the past few years, he has worked almost every day. I am aware that he has been depressed for a while. He may have experienced an MLC breakdown. He owes a lot of people money and is currently broke. He told me before he departed that he would not abandon me in the shanty since I am deeply in debt. Debt that he accumulated under my name since he was turned down for loans and other credit. The entire loan was used to fund the company. It's not easy, but he is attempting to reconstruct things. His girlfriend followed him to Bristol where he took a job move. Now she's on the dole. But the truth is, I'm currently in danger of filing for bankruptcy. Only half of my rent for January has been paid. I'm afraid. My H is clearly having trouble, but he assures me he will figure it out. We both have our names on the rent. That being said, I'm sure the rent on his Bristol apartment is current. I realized that because I felt sorry for him, I was too easy on him. He claims to be perplexed, so I wanted to I have revealed my H to friends and relatives, but I am unable to expose the O because I do not know her. It made little difference to him. He actually has very little impact. Since D is still paying some of my expenses and rent, I am unable to file for him. I am also unable to pay for anything on my own. Since I only have PS 60 left to my name, I won't receive a penny in D anyhow, and I most definitely cannot afford D. I've not had a job for years. I'm trying to find work, but it's difficult. I'm taking medicine to help with my severe depression, but I'm really at my lowest. I feel as though I am at my limit. I hope I could pull him out of his reverie. I'm terrified to death that I'll probably be evicted soon because I haven't paid my rent. Our entire married lives, we were incredibly loving and close. Everything is left up to me to handle on my own. Without the animals, I'm sure I wouldn't get out of bed and would be seriously considering self-harm. Even though I'm considering it now, I won't. I spoke with my H twice in the last week. It's obvious that he is seriously disturbed. He doesn't really care about the O. He was rather explicit about that. Although I feel sorry for him, I just can't connect on an emotional level. Thanks to him, my rent is current and he is providing more assistance now that his business is doing well. Felt for the first time in months that he was being sincere with me. There was nothing, no lines, that he was feeding me. However, I have to let him go so he can cure himself as much as I need to recover. Some great friends who live elsewhere have extended an offer to house me. They are willing to rent me their beautiful farmhouse for a very cheap price. They don't care about the animals because they themselves have 3 dogs. April is moving. I need to get a job here for the short term as well as one for April. I've been a disaster for the past 2 weeks, so my doctor increased my medication on Friday. She also put me on the urgent list for treatment, so maybe that will happen soon. H offered to cover the cost of private counseling if I wanted to see someone right away. If not, I feel like I'm finally able to breathe. Not half as desperate, but I still have a lot to do, so I better get going. After 2 months, I still think he's having a midlife crisis, and based on what I've read and learned, he's on his own journey, therefore I have to let him go. My learning has been sluggish, and I have often failed to acknowledge the obvious. However, I am now at peace, content, and embracing where I am. I have to take care of myself. I can't stop toppling over and landing in the victim chair. However, I'm done looking back, and I sincerely hope I don't make the same mistakes twice. I still need to strengthen my emotional foundation because I'm a little weak. In addition, I physically triggered for 2 days after sabotaging myself in my prior thread. I will never do that again. It's up to me to stand up for myself. Was that a wise decision? No, I need to transform into the person I want to be. It's time for me to be true to who I am. Even though I still know that evenings are difficult for me, I have scheduled every evening for the foreseeable future. I attended a meetup yesterday. I had a blast, it was awesome. I have yoga tonight. Hey, I have another meetup with the same group that I went out with yesterday, or I have a housewarming party. Basically, the SEER meeting consists of bars, alcohol, and dancing. I'm leaning toward that because they're really kind folks and I felt so good about returning home yesterday. Perhaps I can accomplish both. Sadly, I have to drive home, so I won't be having any beverages during either event. However, I don't mind since, like I mentioned in my previous post, it's good to hang out with folks that don't give a damn if you drink or not. I used to always feel pressured to drink by my H. I now realize that he said that to console himself for overindulging in alcohol. Although he doesn't seem to be an alcoholic, he does self-medicate. It was, however, in the past. I'm divorcing this time, for real. That's something I now accept. I texted my husband yesterday after writing the piece mentioned above. It may not have been necessary, but I felt compelled to do so. That's essentially what I wrote here. I'm through. Our union has ended. I'm going to move on. While I'm thriving at home, I received 2 calls, one from him. I laughed to myself, I'm out with the dogs now, then I'm going to a meditation group after that, so I won't be returning any calls shortly. I'm not sure what to expect. If it was a simple question, he would have texted me. Perhaps he was shifting the blame because there was a full moon 2 days ago. He hasn't called once since he left. Thus, everything is conceivable. I suppose everyone ultimately makes it there. It's just that I can no longer stand drama and BS. The next morning when I woke up, I knew it was over. H hasn't responded yet. I'm not going to call. I would have been wondering why he hadn't called me back earlier, becoming fixated on it. I'm not feeling it right now. Well, it's none of my business. Proceeding forward, I'm going to speak with the landlord on Monday. She added that there won't be any opportunity for negotiating because someone had inquired about the house. I'm back to searching for a new residence. I found a position that seems like a good fit, however the office is closed until Tuesday. I'm going to email my CV today. My perspective seems to have entirely shifted. I'm at ease and certain that everything will work out. I attended my first meditation session last night, and it was wonderful. There was only a small group, and everyone was extremely kind. Although I'm feeling better, I slept through most of the weekend and missed my nephew's housewarming celebration at Easter. I just got off the phone with H. We talked about the house and some financial matters, but he only asked me questions on one call. In the past, I would have tried to carry on the conversation. I don't know why he was attempting to talk to me. To tell the truth, I just wasn't interested in talking to him. It resembled a discussion with an elderly aunt. Inquired about the job search, the pets, the vehicle, potential retraining, etc. Questioned whether I was seeing someone. I'm still married, oh no. It makes sense, if I betray him, he would feel more justified in betraying me. Not likely to occur. It was all a little strange. As soon as I could, I got off. Funny enough, I can see exactly how I would have answered in the past. I would have continued talking to him on the phone as long as I could, and afterwards examined it. He talked about visiting the animals. I asked him years ago to do it. Not bothering anymore. I suppose he could if he so chooses. However, I'm accustomed to him making statements and then abandoning them. Despite my self-defeating behavior, I've been occupied this week. Yoga, meditation, meetup, and visit with my personal trainer. I went to the movies, and now I'm going to organize my week. Being more social has been a huge benefit. Contemplating looking for an inexpensive course, class, or fitness program of some kind. 2 years later, H, yes, still married, remains quite dissatisfied with Oba. She is extremely domineering, aggressive, abusive, and on the verge of borderline BPD. I have worked very hard, but not nearly enough, on detaching. He is not in my face because he lives far away. It is more than a year and a half since I last saw him. He never gets in touch with me and I mainly just let him alone. However, he will text back if it's about money or something similar. The issue, I believe, has been that I had assumed he would change. It's my expectations, not that I'm going after him. I only get in touch with him when I have a bill to remind him of. My college costs are the sole bill he pays. Our finances are unrelated. I realize it seems crazy, but we haven't been divorced in almost 3 years. I chose to let him take it and run with it because of his predicament. I am well aware that he is experiencing a mental health crisis and is not the man I married. I'm not sure how I feel about him anymore. He is really aloof from me and has entirely altered in personality. I've changed so much from the person he left behind 3 years ago. Never mind, it was 15 years ago when we were married. Would I want to be with him if we were to meet as strangers? Things to consider, without a doubt. I've been aloof from him for a while, and it's only lately that expectations have surfaced. I'm more conscious of the fact that I never want him back now that I know I don't want him back in the current form. My expectations have risen significantly from their previous levels. I haven't filed because of the cost, which I am currently unable to pay. In addition to part-time work as a life coach, I am finishing up my certification as a therapist. I've been in treatment for more than a year, and most of my problems have been resolved. My response, I wanted to share a healing story today in place of something unusual. Since some people are still recovering, I merely wanted to provide another perspective. Over time, things may change. However, some people find it difficult to let go. But eventually, you will succeed.